What's up, everybody? Guy here. Fun show today. Two guests at once, and they both have great things to say. Really insightful. You're going to hear them say things that nobody has said yet. I hadn't heard anybody say some of this stuff about the Niners' upcoming season, the Niners' schedule, the way the NFL schedule works. JD and Josh Dubow both have very good insight on how the league works. In fact, Josh, just before this conversation, got off the day before, I guess, talked to the league with some specific questions, as you'll hear him say, so he could have answers for me. So this is going to be really insightful, and I hope you find it enjoyable. Two guys on the show today, together. They know each other well. The three of us have hung out a lot at 49ers practice. Josh Dubow has covered the NFL. He's going to be his 20th year for the AP. A lot of time covering the Raiders. He's coming into his 9th year covering the 49ers. He's very sharp. He knows a lot of the inner workings of the league and understands a lot of the stuff that people wonder about. So he has great insight. JD's been on the show before, KNBR 49ers reporter. Same deal, like really understands a lot of the way the NFL moves some of this stuff around. And it's not just schedule talk here. We're going to get into some OTA stuff for the week and big picture NFC West and the NFC and really well-rounded insight. But the two of them together last year, and I've known them both for years, but last year especially, for those of you who remember Guy Football Focus, GFF, the grading I would do of the Niners quarterbacks, these guys were both what's known as cross-checkers in the scouting community. So I would say, I think that's one of I was grading throws, and I'd say to them, like, what do you think of that throw? What do you think of that throw? And other people helped too, Cam Inman, Matt Mayoko, plenty of people I'm forgetting the name. But I went to Dubow and I went to Dickinson a lot on this subject. So Josh Dubow, John Dickinson, and we're going to start. You'll hear we start with me talking about the rest differential, which just because we talk about it doesn't mean that I don't know that it's a big deal. It's just something, and it's a good place to start because it was a story at the end of last week. If you hear me say it and you're like, I've heard enough of rest differential and schedule, give it a shot because again, these guys both have stuff to say that people haven't said yet. So I found it fresh and enlightening, and they know each other well as well. So it was fun to talk to them. All right, here we go. Josh Dubow, John Dickinson. Let's get it. On Wednesday night, I tried to do rest differential math and ended up wrong. I had minus 16, and Dubow sent me a DM. He said, "Don't you? It might be minus 22." So I think the first question, just because this has been one of the big stories of the Niners schedule, is: does this matter at all? Does it matter a little? Does it matter a lot? Dubow, since you did the good math, why don't you start us off here? What do you think?
I think it matters a little, and on the smaller side of little. I actually talked to people at the NFL who yesterday to follow up on this for you, and they don't even look at the days. They think the days are irrelevant because they don't think that 7 days off is 7 times worse than 1 day differential. So it's not like so they look at the times, like the Monday, how many times do you have one less day? How many times do you have 4 less days, and how many times do you have 7 or more? Like the 3 buckets. And from their math that they've done over the last 10 years, looking at point spreads, looking at point differentials and all that, they think the Monday night, if you play a Monday and then the following Sunday, it's half a point it costs you. If you play a Thursday and then get the extra day, they think it's irrelevant. Maybe, I guess maybe because the Thursday game takes a lot out of you, so that the extra rest balances out. Maybe, I don't know. And then the advantage of the bye has almost gone away since they banned practice during the bye week. So from 2002 to 2010, you could practice during the bye week, and teams did a lot better post-bye. Once they said you can't practice during the bye week with the new CBA, the advantage dropped from about 2.5 points a game to 0.3, according to the NFL. These are their numbers, and the winning percent. And I was able to look at winning percentage. I don't have all their what went into their numbers, but the winning percentage had dropped from 557 after the bye before the CBA changed to 528 after the bye since 2011. So the difference has definitely gone down. And then, as you've pointed out on many times, this is one aspect of the schedule of fairness. They could have gone to London. They could have played Dallas in week 2 and not gotten Dallas after a bye, and played Minnesota in week 8 in London And would that be better? There would be 15-day differential, but they'd have a London trip. Would they rather have that? I don't know. You could flip the Chicago and the Miami games, and you'd knock 3 days off a rest differential because Chicago wouldn't be coming off a Thursday, but now you'd have 3 road games in a row in December. Is that better? I don't know. So I think people put out a number on rest differential and think, okay, this is, because there's a number to it. Okay, this is such a big deal. And when you look at it, there are other factors in the schedule. The Niners have gotten the advantage. They haven't gone to, the Niners and Steelers, the only teams who haven't gone to Europe since the start of 2014. Everyone else has had at least one Europe trip. I think the Niners one of 6 teams who haven't had a 3-game road trip since the start of 2018. Some teams hate that. So there are different things in the schedule. So this is a minor, it's not no factor, but I think it's being overstated how big a factor.
And the Niners have the September request too, right? They don't want to play day games early in September.
They don't want to play day games in September. They don't want, so they've had the fewest of those by far. Day games in September since the stadium opened. I think they're I can't remember what I looked at. They're maybe 6. They have only 2 10 a.m. Pacific time starts. Sometimes the West Coast teams complain about that.
And one's after a bye.
Yeah, so they have. So they're low on that end too. So they're different. There are 8 or 9 things that are flexible in the schedule. Obviously, the teams and the location of the games, other than whether it's in Europe or not,
right, are
predetermined. But of all the things that did they get hurt a little bit on playing 4 teams after a bye? Sure, complete. But did they get helped a little on the other things? And in the end, is it how big a factor is it? I think it's pretty negligible.
The thing that I always wonder about, guys, is just how much negotiation goes into the requests that are made. And Guy, you mentioned, the 49ers wanting to play night games early in the season to avoid some of the heat at Levi's Stadium. But the scenario in which Josh mentioned, all right, you play Minnesota and Minneapolis, you didn't have to go to London. And maybe that was something that the 49ers really didn't want. Maybe they wanted it from a business standpoint, but they really didn't want it from a football standpoint. And so the league, in essence, says, all right, we won't do that, but you're not going to complain about Green Bay and Buffalo after around Thanksgiving and in December, and you're not going to complain about maybe a few more games where you're going to be playing some teams where you're going to have the rest disadvantage, which I don't think is nothing. But yeah, I don't think that it's, a lot of it is, all right, well, who are you playing after? I think that's a big part of it. And just where are you in your season? Last year, the game that stood out for the 49ers was the home game against Cincinnati, where the Niners were up against it and a little banged up and hadn't played well the last couple of weeks. And Cincinnati had the rest advantage in addition to everything else there, with the 49ers coming off the Monday night game in Minnesota, and Cincinnati smoked them. And, basically the 49ers' worst game of the year. So I think it's something. I think it's more than a half point here or a point there. I do think to me, it's more in line with maybe a game here in a season where you're just at a complete disadvantage to the point where, if other things maybe are going against you, it gets exacerbated to the point where it turns into a loss or an ugly loss. A game maybe 2, but I also think there's a game maybe 2 that have the potential to work the other way for a team. So I would say my numbers on it from watching the NFL for as long as I have, in addition to taking in all the actual numbers, I do think it's maybe a game a year for a team that has a disadvantage.
I think it kind of depends. So JD, last year the Niners were bagged up for that Cincinnati, so they could have used the bye the week of that Cincinnati game as opposed to the week after. They had Debo and Trent both missed that game, if I recall. So I think some of it depends on if they had been healthy at that time. My guess is you would have looked at it and say, it wasn't that big a deal, but they didn't have the rest disadvantage. It happened to be a stretch of time where they weren't healthy and they could have used the week off. So I think some of it is just a little bit of a randomness of, when you need the week off and when you don't, when you have guys banged up, when you don't, and you could have guys banged up and not have a rest disadvantage. I don't know if they would have been much better off without Debo and Trent Williams against Cincinnati if the rest was equal either. I don't know if that was as much rest or those guys missing the game. But
I also think we probably view that game differently. I think the Bengals game probably doesn't stick out in people's minds as much if they don't have heartbreaking losses, a heartbreaking loss to the Browns 2 weeks prior, a devastating loss to the Vikings the week before. Let's say you win both those games and then the Bengals game happens are we really talking about any of this stuff? The Bengals game would not stand out in our minds in the same way. I mean, it represented something in that season, right? It was that game gets put with Cleveland and Minnesota as part of this stretch that was the low point of the year.
And would they have rather have had, let's say, if you put Cleveland after Cincinnati and had the bye early in the season before would have been before the Minnesota game, is that better to have that early week bye and then play 12 straight games, I think it would have been 12 or 13 straight games in a row? Is that, I don't, getting a bye in week 9 that they've had the last couple of years is pretty ideal too.
And some of playing the four of the first 6 on the road is your request to not play as many afternoon games at home. So I think that played into it as well. When you look at, all right, you started with the 2 on the road, then you came home for 2, you play one of those is a night game, and then you're going to go right back on the road for 2. To help, I think, with the accommodation of the request to maybe not. If you don't want night games early in the year at home, then that means you may not play as many home games, period, at the beginning of the year.
But I would say like the larger 50,000 foot question, and I have a follow up, Josh, for you talk to the league at the end of the week about something specific. But I think if the Niners hadn't just had 4 teams off buys last year, which was a league high, hadn't just had, 20 rest, a 20-day rest disadvantage last year, which was a league high, it maybe would feel a little less noticeable when it happens in back-to-back years. Then you ask, well, is there something about the Pacific time zone? Is there something about all the primetime games they play? Is there something about, the early season thing that JD just mentioned? Like, is there something that puts the Niners in this position? I'm not going to add, does the league have it out for the 49ers? Because that's not even worth, that's
well,
stupid,
there is something. And the something is, if you're a good team, the priority is getting you in big national TV windows. And that's going to be their priority. So they're going to, if their choice is, okay, we got to give them, we want to make sure that the Kansas City game is on Fox and at this time, and we've got to make this game a national TV window at this time, then maybe we're going to give up on, okay, we can't fix this other thing. So the high profile teams are going to probably be screwed a little more in that, because the priority is going to be, we need to maximize our TV windows. That's the number one goal is not fairness when they're making the schedule. If the number one goal was fairness, everyone would play at 3:00 Eastern every Sunday, and there would be all the games at the exact same time. Everyone would have the exact same rest, and there would be no bye weeks, or everyone would have this 1 week off, and it would be complete fairness for everyone.
Which is probably what the computer would do, right? If you left it, the computer probably spits out a pretty fair schedule, and then the humans get involved and go, we need a
humans get involved first.
The humans get involved first and say, these are the parameters. I think pretty early on, the humans got involved saying, okay, we kind of like to see Kansas City in that Saturday, Wednesday, Christmas deal. And we want Kansas City in the opening Thursday night. And so if we have Kansas City in the Saturday, Wednesday, Christmas thing, we need 3 other teams that all play each other to do that. So now it's like, okay, so now we've got that, and then it's like, okay, let's figure out who we want to play on Thanksgiving. So now we get, and then it's like, which games do we want designated as primetime games? So it's not totally random. They definitely put parameters in, and the computers can spit out it's millions and millions, countless number of schedules, but the humans are the ones who put the parameters in. It's not like the computer is spitting out schedules at random and they're looking, oh, wow, hey, we got the Chiefs in primetime a lot. Oh, this is great. Let's use this one. It's, they're putting the parameters in and who they want to see and how they want to deny guys Raiders a primetime window as much as possible.
And correct me if I'm wrong on this, Josh, but it's essentially a network draft when the schedule is built out to a certain extent.
Somewhat,
right?
not quite to the extent that college football is, where they actually have a draft where Fox picks Michigan, Ohio State is their first choice Big Ten game, and then NBC or CBS gets the second. It's not quite that, but
that draft just started last week, by the way.
Yeah, right.
And it's ongoing.
But I guess there's a tradition that the network who had the Super Bowl, that if there's a Super Bowl rematch, does not get the rematch. So that's why Fox is getting KC San Francisco. The CBS was not going to get KC San Francisco because they had it in the Super Bowl, so it was going to go to someone else. I think Fox wanted it. It's Fox's only, it's a Fox's only KC game, but I think they were happy with getting that one as their one KC. They weren't going to get many KC games, so they got the, possibly the best one.
Same weekend as 2 years ago, by the way.
Yeah,
it was October 23rd in week 7 2 years ago at Levi's when those two teams played. Right. It's October 20th in week 7 this year, which I found to be Interesting.
And
Like
I
those
can't
late
remember
October, early Novembers.
This is why I wanted both of you on the show together, because the two of you are the ones that would find the 2-year anniversary of Niners Chiefs regular season interesting on the same date.
But yeah, so I can't remember which one. There was one that CBS wanted. I can't remember if it was it's Chiefs Bills on CBS. I can't remember if that's a Sunday night game or if that's a.
I only have the national schedule in front of me.
Yeah, let's see. Chiefs Bills is Chiefs Bills is CBS. So CBS wanted Chiefs Bills, and I think NBC wanted Ravens. For the opener against the. So it's like basically okay. Let's divvy up all the big Chiefs games. Amazon wanted at least one. I think they wanted them for Black Friday. I was big for Amazon, and then NBC gets them in the
against the Raiders, right? Black Friday
against the Raiders. Huge break for the Raiders. They're 1-15 against Andy Reid on Sundays.
Right, so. That's right. I forgot about that. They beat the Chiefs on other days of the week.
They're 3-3 against Andy Reid's Chiefs on other days of the week. 1-15 on Sundays. The league once again helping out the Raiders, helping out Raiders that do whatever they can for them. So
what a hate! What a hate! I forgot what a hater. 18 years covering the Raiders, and you're a hater. Unbelievable.
The league does whatever they can to help.
Yeah, I know. But I think like the Chiefs rest differential, I think is a positive rest differential. I saw somebody in my, I don't know if you.
Part of that is opening on Thursday night builds in rest for week 2, and the Christmas Wednesday builds in rest for week 18. So there's some,
but reduces rest for the week before.
But it doesn't reduce the advantage because they're playing a team who played on Saturday the week before.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
So,
and I got to think in the draft, like if you're the Chiefs, playing on agreeing or not agreeing, whatever, playing on a Wednesday, it has to be one of the greatest cards a team could give the NFL this year, right? Like, okay, we'll do a Wednesday Christmas Day game, right? That's it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, I think, because if you're one of those teams who is not getting a bye, especially if you're not getting a bye and making the playoffs, but are locked in week 18, and you want to rest your guys. If you're playing week 17 on a Wednesday, that's a long amount of time off between games. If you want to rest Mahomes and Kelsey, you're giving them 2.5. Is that almost too much time? Do you now have to play those guys if you don't get the bye? If you get the bye, maybe you play them a little bit because you have the week off again. But it's definitely a lot of rest before, and maybe almost too much. The Niners had to make sure they had practices on the field the bye week when they got the bye last year to make sure that they weren't too rusty. That was like a big thing for Kyle, was making sure, okay, when we get the bye week before the divisional round, we're going to make sure we have a couple days on the field practicing because we don't want guys sitting too long. So with the Wednesday game, it gets a little dicey, whether you play them the last week of the season or not.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's not just them. I mean, like, probably not, Baltimore could be in the same boat, right? There's maybe 3 people would say Houston. Dark horse Houston. Yeah. Maybe the 1 seed of the AFC could be playing on Christmas Day. And
this is the tell, right? As far as future years, they're going to play on Christmas every year. Like, it doesn't matter what the day is. Like, moving forward, I think it was Monday. This is a leap year, so Monday, Christmas became Wednesday. I mean, we're going Thursday, Friday, Saturday the next 3 years. So that's going to be easy to do.
Wednesday was the hardest. So once you do Wednesday, they've done Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday before. So Tuesday and Wednesdays but Wednesday's even more complicated, I think, than Tuesdays.
Sure. Yeah. Tuesday would become the end of a week.
End of a week, right. Yeah.
And then Wednesday would become the beginning of the next week as it was this year.
Yeah.
I heard one of the schedule guys from the NFL say that it was not just a Netflix thing, that this was not just let's do this for Netflix. It was available to everybody to bid on. And that the other interesting note he said was Netflix told the NFL that Christmas is their most viewed day on the platform. The most Netflix streaming happens on Christmas Day every year, which, it makes sense, right? You start thinking about all the Christmas movies and that sort of thing. But people
that are home watching football or the NBA are watching movies all day.
Yeah.
Well, that's right. I saw somebody make the point, like, now the beauty of this for the NFL is you can't flip back and forth to your NBA game if you were going to flip back and forth to the NBA game. Although Apple TV with the remote does make it pretty easy to switch apps, but app switching is definitely a way, as we see on Thursday night. It's a way to lock you in to maybe just checking what's on other channels a little bit less. One day, no one will even, there's no checking channels. There will only be app switching. But right now, we're kind of in the transitionary period, right, between app switching and channel changing. And that's got to help the NFL too.
Yeah, but I think the NBA gets a little help because Netflix wanted the games in the afternoon. They didn't want a primetime game because they want the games in primetime in Europe because they've got the international rights to these games.
Yep.
So they wanted them not, they didn't want a night game in the U.S. that wasn't able to be broadcast in Europe.
That's interesting. Because when you look at the Netflix subscriber numbers, it's a worldwide number.
Yes,
the number you're looking at.
Right. And they have the worldwide rights to this, right? It's not like some of those things with Amazon Prime. I don't know if Amazon Prime has the world rights. Some of these things they don't get the worldwide rights to. You only get the US based rights, and some of them you get the worldwide. Netflix definitely has the worldwide rights, and that's why they wanted afternoon games. I know sounded like from the call yesterday that the Steeler fans were not happy for a 1 o'clock game on Christmas. I think they wanted, right in the middle of their day to have to go to the game. Yeah. They would have rather had a night. They would have rather had a night game, be able to have Christmas at home, and then go to the game. But but Netflix was definitely insistent on the.
Have you guys seen any viewer number? I know when I looked last year, the Amazon Prime subscribers, it's about 200 million, but the Prime Video users was like 70, 75 million, something like that. I think the numbers I saw on Netflix was about 265 million subscribers. We subscribe to Netflix. It's obviously strictly for Netflix. But it'll be interesting because that's probably going to be, that might be an NFL Network production, right? Netflix doesn't have a sports department.
They haven't, right. They haven't said, there's talk, they haven't said who they're going to use or whether they'll, right.
Could be
I assume that, I'm guessing they're not going to create their own production company for 2 games. It seems kind of silly, but I don't know. Yeah. I would assume they would use someone's, maybe they'll get their own, they could get their own announcers or, piece together announcing pairs from different places, more likely. But I think the production crew, I would have to think you'd want to just use someone's existing stuff, I would think. But
you would think. The other thing, I mean, there's kind of the nitty gritty of the schedule. I hate and I will tell you guys this, the Packers Bills back to back, because it makes it harder to get the one seed. Like it's harder, but I want to, the stuff that people are afraid of, which is like Purdy. Is it going to be cold for Purdy in Buffalo on December 1st? It's something that I think JD would kind of need to see anyway. So I'm good with it.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I mean, and then that's a busy week just in terms of people's lives, right? Thanksgiving right there in the middle. Yeah. I mean, it's the Sunday before Thanksgiving and then Thanksgiving and then the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So I think that's another element. I know, NFL teams are always on the field the Wednesday, Thursday, Wednesday before and Thanksgiving Day at some point and the Friday after if you're playing a Sunday game. But to have the travel to Green Bay, potentially weather element, then you're coming back, then you're going to Buffalo. Like that was, that I think is what you get when maybe you get a little bit of a benefit elsewhere. But it's going to be a lot of fun. And as somebody that's pegged to travel to cover these games, I liked it. Believe it or not, I checked it as, hey, that's going to be cool. Yeah. To be at Lambeau, right after Thanksgiving, or Buffalo on a 8:20 Eastern game when the elements could be part of it. Right. Sort of the overarching, just general theme. In looking at the 49ers schedule specifically, though, it's it's home and short travel basically in the first half, and then you're doing all your travel, not all, but most of it in the second half with Tampa, Green Bay, Buffalo, Miami late, and so. It's going to be a hard finish. Get off to a good start, pad that record, and then win the games that you need to was kind of how I was looking at it for the 49ers in the post-bye portion, beginning with that Tampa game, which is the first of the 3. You get the Seattle game wedged in there, but at Tampa, Seattle game wedged in, at Green Bay, at Buffalo, before you come home for Chicago and then the Rams on the Thursday night. But that's a stretch. I know a lot of people talk about the at Seattle, Kansas City, Dallas in October. I think the toughest stretch is the post-bye stretch with the travel and potentially the elements, and really all the way through to the the Miami game on December 22nd, where you're a lot of back and forth and a lot of pretty good teams in that mix.
And then Detroit at home the Monday night the week after. Yeah, so it's I guess the good thing is under Shanahan they've been really good the second half of the season. They've been better. They've had their hiccups more in September, October than they have in November, December. They've usually hit their traditionally have hit their stride in the second half of the season. So maybe that's a benefit for them. I don't know.
It's going to put the one seed. The one seed is just the way I said a couple weeks ago was you're always trying to figure out if a team can win a Super Bowl, but really now in the last few years where there's only one bye, it's really about can you get the one seed in the regular season, and then you figure out the rest of it. Then you hit the postseason and figure that out. But there's really such an extra emphasis on the one seed, and then I do think Steve Young got attention for saying this the other day, but I think it's something we've been talking about a lot. Last year was kind of their best shot. It was the last 2 years, really. The NFC West 2 years ago was terrible. The NFC West last year was better. The Rams, and then the NFC West this year will also be better. I don't know how, Seattle will kind of just, I think will kind of just be the same, but I think Arizona's going to be a little better. And the Rams, I think, will be about the same, but maybe a little bit. I don't know. What do you're scowling at the Rams.
Missing Aaron Donald. I don't know. The missing Aaron Donald. The combination of missing Aaron Donald, and I think they were pretty healthy last year too. I believe they were one of the healthier teams. And that's you're going to get I think Stafford was healthy for 15 hours. He missed he missed one game for injury. Kupp missed a little bit of time, but they were pretty healthy last year. And I don't know, Aaron Donald. It's not just we can replace Aaron Donald. It's kind of I want to see how that goes. They have a lot of good young defensive players, but they aren't Aaron Donald.
Yeah, that was my first thought as well. With the Rams is no Aaron Donald, and so that's a big time game changer for them. I think they overachieved last year. I think they were really projected to be mid or in some cases worse than mid, bad, and ended up being a playoff team. Seattle is fascinating to me because they've, I think, overachieved a little bit the last couple of years. I know didn't make the playoffs last season. Are they going to be as good or better than they were the last couple of years? It seems like there's now some quarterback issues at the surface there. So I wonder about them. And a new coaching staff, all of that. I kind of wonder if they're going to be maybe worse than they've been the last couple of years. 3 straight Thursday night games, by the way, for the 49ers at Seattle. That was another just kind of random oddity that stood out.
3 straight years with a Seattle.
2 straight years, right? Yeah.
3 straight years. 22, 23, 24. Last 2 years in December. This year in October for the 49ers at Seattle. So they've liked that game.
Yeah, I do think they get a little break where both their Thursday games are NFC West games.
Definitely.
They don't have the at Tennessee that they had in 2021. That was a rough one. That was a rough trip.
Check was open,
but 2 of them. But 2 of them. And again, I think that's when you get 2 of them. I sneaky think the Niners like having a Thursday in December. They've had that December slot a couple of years ago. The Rams slot they had a couple of years ago against Seattle. That was one of the Seattle games. I think it was December 15th, that same week. I think the Niners are okay with that because it gives them a little bit of a bye, even if they don't have, or maybe they're not going to end up getting the 1 seed to get the bye. I think they like having the break. I think it's hell to maybe push through that late in the season, but I think that mid-December Thursday night game, they like having the little reset before the last couple of games in the regular season and the playoffs.
And then they do get an extra day. They get the Thursday game, they go to Miami, then they have the Monday game against Detroit. That if they can have things wrapped up and not have to play in the week 8, play all their guys in week 18 against Arizona, they definitely could be rested up for the start of the playoffs, whether they get the bye or not.
And I think Arizona's better, just to finish the NFC West thought. I think Arizona's better. Seattle, I think, could plummet. And the Rams, I don't know. I feel like they overachieved a little bit last year. Are they due to come down? And then the no Aaron Donald factor. So that's the May 17 overarching NFC West preview for me.
I think Seattle's got the widest variance to me. I think, if you told me that Mike McDonald comes in and that defense takes a big step up just with, new scheme and, new voice there, I could believe it. And if the offense is better, if the tackles are healthy and the offensive line is a little better, and, they've got receivers, they got some weapons for Geno. Geno's fine. He's not nothing special, but he's a good quarterback. He's a capable quarterback. That if they, were back in the playoff contention, I could totally buy it. And if it takes a year for that defense to mesh, and they decide they want to look at Sam Howell because Geno struggles a little bit early, they end up 5-12. I could buy that. I think they have the widest variance in the division.
Interesting. OTAs this week. OTAs next few weeks. Anything top of each of your lists when you're going out there? Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, Tanner Mordecai versus Brandon Allen.
The punt returners, man. I want GFF on the punt returners.
Yeah.
I want to. Yeah. Actually,
punt return grading's hard.
I know. Yeah. Actually, not joking. I'm actually most curious to watch kickoff returns. I want to see what they do, like how they practice, what they look like.
Yeah. A new rule, not the returners, but actually
the returners, but yeah. Well, who they're using as returners under the new rule. Yeah. I guess a little bit too, but yeah. But yeah, I'm a little curious on the new rule and just how that looks. But otherwise it's probably Pearsall. You don't get to see a lot from the offensive linemen. That I would say Pearsall. I would say, I guess maybe just how the nickels work, whether, sounds like Renardo is going to get the nickel spot early and put Lenore outside.
Yeah. At
least to start, just how that all works. And, but yeah, I would say probably the receivers. Yeah. I'm not as excited as you about the third quarterback battle, the Tanner Mordecai.
I wasn't excited about it either until, I just look for things to fight with Larry Krueger about, and he's been going on and on about Tanner Mordecai. And
he likes Tanner Mordecai.
Yeah.
He does.
I give him credit. He liked Brock Purdy too.
Yes, he did.
So you gotta, I can't just dismiss it and try and smack him down. And, he's watching the tape, but I think the third quarterback on this team, it's really critical that exactly what's happening. Brandon Allen knows exactly what's happening. You don't have to worry if Brandon Allen's going to know the playbook on Sunday, especially now with the emergency third quarterback dressed out. Like that guy, it does matter if that guy had a good Monday, Tuesday, or not Monday, but if that guy had a good Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday of preparation, it matters a lot. So I think it's going to be tough, but
and here's the thing I would ask, and not necessarily for next week or the next couple of weeks, but as far as the backup quarterback deal goes, is it for sure Josh Dobbs is the 2 and Allen is the 3, or are they having their own battle for who's going to be the 2 and who's going to be the 3? I think that's something to kind of keep an eye on as well. Last year, it's funny that the Niners had Sam Darnold and didn't need to use Sam Darnold when there are other years where they would have, killed to have Sam Darnold as a potential option. So I don't know. I lean veteran for the Niners as far as, regardless of Dobbs or Allen, I think you'd want to have both available should something happen to Brock Purdy, as opposed to having a prospect that you're trying to groom in the wings.
Can Josh
be
Dobbs
from practice squad?
Can Josh Dobbs be the designated sneaker? Brock's not as good as Jimmy at the quarterback sneaks. Could Josh Dobbs be your 4th and 1? Bring him in, and Jacoby Brissett's done that. Brock got hurt doing a sneak. Like maybe use Josh Dobbs as your designated sneaker.
Yeah, I mean, or one of these. I mean, you tell me McCaffrey, you just can't snap it directly to McCaffrey. Why not just do that?
What, lined up under center?
Yeah, why not?
Just line him up under center and let him
take a snap. He's going to catch 83 balls. He can take a snap.
Well, you don't want him to get the concussion either.
No, but I'm less worried about him. He's got a strong neck. I'm not a doctor, but Tuesday. Tuesday is the open practice. 12:30 is when they'll practice on Tuesday, and then Shanahan at 1:45 that afternoon. So.
And just quick one for me, one, and this has been mentioned. I mean, I look at, there was so much talk about the Minnesota game potentially being in London. It's not, but the 49ers haven't won at Minnesota since 1992. So going to Minnesota has been no picnic for a number of different iterations. Talk about the last 30 plus years and going back to 94 and all of that. They haven't won a game at the Metrodome or US Bank Stadium since I don't think they played when they played at University of Minnesota, but it's been all the way back since 1992, including the Monday Nighter last year. So maybe you would have rather have had that game be in London if you're the 49ers. And, I know a lot of people have discussed the ability to get off to a good start. I'm not so sure about get on like 5-0, 6-1, like that kind of. Yeah, if you win at Minnesota, if you handle the Jets, like I think the Jets week 1 is that's no picnic. Especially as Josh laid out, sometimes the 49ers have had some of their hiccups early in the season. I guess I didn't view, oh wow, the Niners are going to run off a bunch of games in a row at the beginning as much of a lock as maybe some others did.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, I think the Jets are, if we just play the odds, are more likely to be a weird team than a powerhouse team.
Sure.
Not to say
I'd rather play them late. I'd rather play them later, though, I think.
Well, I mean, the one thing I would say
I'm with you, JD.
Well,
I'd rather play
why?
later.
Because you think they're more likely to be a mess later than early?
Well, I think Tyron Smith's more likely not to be healthy, for one thing, too. They're left out, I think.
But
their offensive line.
Aaron might be.
Yeah.
Olafushan, is Olafushan, is there going to be starting a rookie on the offensive line week 1?
No, he was starting Tyron Smith in week 1. Fashanu was going to be the backup, I think.
Okay.
So I think the offensive line will be healthier. I think you don't know. This is some unknown. The advantage of the unknown with what the Jets offense is going to look like with Aaron. You haven't seen it. It's harder to plan against it. So later in the season, you'll know what you're getting. I'd rather play that a few weeks into the season than play that week 1.
I'll tell you what, I don't mind it week 1, partly just fundamentally Aaron's coming back from an Achilles, and I think he's more likely to be healthy week 10 than he is now maybe he'll get hurt, but first game back after an Achilles injury for him when he was hurt on a pass rush. Also, I kind of obviously everyone knows there's going to be a lot of attention on Brock. There is already. So in one way, playing on Monday Night Football against the Jets brings more attention, but I also think Aaron's going to have so much attention on him that Brock doesn't have to shoulder everything. Just I don't know how much of it he pays attention to, but the Niners get to be they get to share just everything that comes with them. They get to split a little with the Jets and maybe even get to do a little of the everyone's talking about them, what about us stuff that every team loves to do, even when it's not true. So I don't hate it. I also think the Jets are weird. They tried to replace Nathaniel Hackett, but only with a shadow OC. They weren't going to fire him, but they tried to hire somebody above him. So I just think I just think they're in for a weird year, and I think it's going to start for them.
Not even as a win. I'd rather just play them a little later. Hey, JD, do you know who started at quarterback for the Vikings when the Niners last beat them there?
Oh, wow. So that
Eric
was what,
Kramer?
1992?
Not Eric Kramer. Older?
Wow. That's it. You're going to say it, and I'm going to be like, damn it, I should have it.
Can we get a hint?
I tweet about him sometimes.
You tweet about him sometimes. I mean,
it's Rich Gannon. Rich Gannon. That's right. Damn it. I should have known that.
9 for 21, 102 yards and a pick, 38.2 passer rating that day. Rough day for Rich. And Roger Craig was on Minnesota that day. 4 carries, 32 yards, and a 3-yard catch.
That's good.
That's it.
Yeah. There you go.
A 14-2 49er game. Yeah, a couple of touchdowns for Ampley.
Yes, big day for Ampley. 134 rushing, 2 TD, 1 rush, 1 catch, 1 TD catch. Yeah, big day for Ampley. So,
yeah,
yes, JD.
No, I just and if the Niners do not get off to a good start, then I think a lot every year teams can say this, but things get. I don't want to say dicey, but interesting with the way that the schedule lays out in the back half. If the Niners are, let's say, 4-3 or 5-3 even, I think after those first 8, going into the bye, they're going to have to win some games in some tough environments. Or I always look at the pocket games too. And again, the schedule changes in terms of I think every team has games that depending upon how things go, they have to win. Like things could get weird. Like I look at Green Bay and Buffalo, and I on the surface, I say from the Niners' point of view, you don't have to win both of those games or even any of those games, but you do have to beat Seattle at home and you do have to beat Chicago at home before and after. And as long as you do that and you're winning enough early on in the year, you're probably going to be okay going into the Rams game on Thursday. So I look at those little games, winnable games on paper, around some other games that maybe are more losable on paper. And so often you'll see teams, Josh, get in those situations where, they lose some of the games that are just tough games on their schedule, but where seasons can get away from teams is when you lose one of those other games, in addition to the games that are the maybe projected or scheduled losses.
Yeah, I just think that stretch early, the New England, Arizona at Seattle stretch, they'll be able to find their way there. I can't imagine they're not coming out of that stretch looking pretty good. They played well at Seattle. I think they're better than Seattle. Going there in a short week, but after playing New England and Arizona at home is not that tough. You should be. Those should not be stressful.
Two. Definitely right. Should win those two.
And those shouldn't be games where you're playing Christian McCaffrey 100% of the snaps and running him like 35 times. You should be able to maybe ease up a little bit on guys, and then you get a little rest for the and then you get that Kansas City Dallas back to back. Seems like they should be in pretty good shape through that stretch, and then that back half, and it gives them a little bit of cushion for the back half. And I just don't think, I know obviously the number one seed guy was talking about the number one seed being so big, but the division also is getting that first home game. So it's like I think they should be in good shape division wise, because I'm not as high on the Rams this year. I think they should be in pretty good shape division wise after that first stretch, and then if they can get through, maybe win one of those Buffalo Green Bay games, beat Detroit at home, not flip up against a Chicago or Miami, then maybe the one seed can be in play. I also don't think it's a year where the one seed is going to be 14 wins in the NFC.
It wasn't like it was 12 last year. Yeah, right. I think it could be 12 again. Like I think it's 12, maybe 13. I don't think it's so. Right. So you do have a little bit of cushion in terms of going for that one seed. Some of it could come down to tiebreakers. They don't play if Philly's in the mix. They don't play Philly. The Detroit game could be big. Playing Detroit and Green Bay, the head-to-head obviously could be big when you're going for that. I guess Dallas if they win that division, but I think 12 is going to get you in the mix for the one seed. 13, I think should probably get it for you. So if they can get through that early stretch, not slip up against any of those weaker teams early, I think they should at least go into that second half with a realistic shot at it. We're just asking a Shanahan team to not have that one weird stretch that they have. There's no
Sure. Yeah.
This is just what they find a way. Even when you go in and you think they've got every piece they need, they just find a way for something to get weird. So Brandon, did Brandon Staley take over as a week 8 conversation as as defensive coordinator, right? Like I've got that one in the back of my mind.
If Mahomes and Dak, if they lose to Mahomes and Dak back to back and the defense struggles before the bye,
in front of Tom Brady,
right? Like that'll definitely be the question. Yeah, is it time for Brandon Staley to take over the defense? Sure, 100%. That'll be
Tom Brady out of the booth.
Yeah. Well, that too.
He's going to be at Niners Chiefs one way or the other.
He will be there. So. Unless he takes over as Raiders quarterback before then. So
I think there's 2-3 game stretches before the bye. I think there's 2. If you're looking for the guy, what is it going to be? Jets at Minnesota, at Rams, where they're sneaky 1-2 after 3, or is it going to be at Seattle, Kansas City, Dallas, where maybe they go 1-2 in that group, and it kind of has everybody freaking out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, big break though. They might get to play Darnold instead of JJ McCarthy in week 2. I don't know if JJ might not start at the start of the year. It's a huge break to play Darnold instead of JJ. What was that look, Haberman? Come on.
Sorry, I forgot that was I thought that was a real comment and not a Michigan homer.
It's a real comment. Come on.
For those watching on YouTube, you can see where that comment comes from
right there. All right, you too.
Haberman had me listening to Jim Tressel as I was waiting to get on this damn thing. So
Jim Tressel's got a podcast. I was just checking it out.
Check out the Jim Tressel podcast.
All right, you guys. Great. Thank you both for making time. Josh Dubow, the AP, John Dickinson of KNBR, and I'll see you at the Santa Clara on Tuesday.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys.
See you.
Bye.
All right, that was fun. Josh Dubow, John Dickinson, great perspective. And have a great week, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. All right, later.